In this video, I'm going to show you how lenders use your debt-to-income ratio in the mortgage process. This is the 5th video in a 6-part playlist that covers every element of debt-to-income ratios. In earlier videos, which are linked in the caption below, I've discussed how your DTI is calculated, what's included as debt and income, and what DTIs are permitted by different loan programs. And now we're going to bring it all together and talk about what the heck it is lenders do with all these numbers once we've cooked them up. Now, as a refresher, your lender is going to figure 2 debt-to-income ratios, a front DTI, which is your housing expense divided by your income, and a back DTI, which is your housing expense plus your other debts divided by your income. So how exactly does your DTI figure into the lending process? Although there's a lot more to every loan than just the DTI, in my everyday practice, I am quite sure I spend more time on DTI related matters than anything else. And in the real world, I usually work backwards. And what do I mean by this? Well, we want to start out with a clear idea of where we want to end up. The first thing you should do when you're thinking about buying a home is contact a lender and get pre-approved. Don't wait until you find a house to start the loan process. That's one of the biggest mistakes you could make. Now, when you call me, we're going to start by talking about your goals. This isn't an accident. If I'm going to help you accomplish your goals, I need to know what they are. That's not to say you can't come to the lending process with unanswered questions. But if you know homes in the neighborhood you want come at a certain cost, or you figured out that you can afford a monthly payment of a certain amount, or you have a defined amount of savings to cover the down payment, we need to work with this information within these parameters and build a financing strategy around it. So we'll start by talking about your goals and gathering up your financial information. And then we'll play matchmaker, looking for loan options that are the best fit for your financial profile and meet all of those goals. Once we determine what loan option is the best fit, my team and I are going to experiment with automated underwriting. For a longer conversation about this topic of automated underwriting, check out part 4 of this playlist, and while you're poking around our channel, please like and subscribe. I would love to know if you found this information helpful. So, as we run automated underwriting, what we're looking for is basically a guardrail. We'll be strategically running different scenarios and probing for the maximum debt-to-income ratio. For a conventional loan, we'd be playing around with both Fannie Mae's system called Desktop Underwriter, or DU, and Freddie Mac's, which is called Loan Product Advisor, or LPA. And this process actually feels a little bit like playing video poker or something. We'll set up different scenarios, try them out, hit submit, wait a minute or two for the results. And we use these systems every day, so it isn't totally random. We've become pretty expert at guessing what's happening inside of the black box. And sometimes we'll find our limit, that guardrail we're looking for, at a maximum front debt-to-income ratio. So now we know your house payment can be no more than X. Sometimes, I would say more often, we determine that it's a maximum back debt-to-income ratio. But once we find that maximum DTI, that number is magical. Once we know it, we can calculate the amount you can qualify to borrow for any property that you might want to purchase. And I want to show you how this looks in action with an example. And so for this example, let's say that we determine Fannie Mae's DU system, their automated underwriting system, will allow up to a 45% back DTI. And I'm going to keep using the same income and debt assumptions that I used in earlier videos in this series. So we have $10,000 of monthly income and $1,000 of other monthly debts. This is going to be your credit cards, car payments, and student loans. The second video in this series goes really deep on that if you want more information. Now I'm going to use those examples, but you can feel free to kind of play along at home and use your own income and your own debt. So how much can you spend on a house? Well, there are 4 steps that we're going to follow to figure that out. Step 1, we're going to calculate your total payment. Step 2, we're going to calculate your principal and interest payment only, and we'll talk about that in a minute. And then we're going to calculate your maximum loan amount and then we're gonna, step 4, back into calculating your maximum purchase price. So let's start at step 1, figuring out your maximum payment. So to do this, we're gonna multiply your $10,000 total income times 45%, which is our maximum debt to income ratio that DU gave us. That'll give us $4,500 in total debt payments. But remember, we have that $1,000 of other monthly debt, so we have to subtract that too. That leaves us with $3,500 as a maximum house payment, or what lenders call your PITI. And we're on our way, but we're not done yet. PITI stands for principal, interest, taxes, and insurance. And even though it's not part of the acronym, PITI also includes mortgage insurance and homeowners association dues when they're applicable. So our second step is to whittle down our $3,500 PITI to the amount we can spend on the loan itself, which is the P&I, or principal and interest, part of the PITI. So for a helpful visual, let's say your total monthly payment is a $3,500 pie. Now let's cut into that pie and take out a slice for property taxes, and then another slice for insurance, and another slice for any homeowners association dues, and yet another for any mortgage insurance. And when we get done taking those slices out, what's left over in the pan is what can go to the loan payment itself. So let's pick up where we left off with our example, and we're gonna say the taxes on the home you like are $6,000 a year. That works out to $500 a month. And we'll estimate homeowners insurance at $1,200 a year, or $100 a month. And we're gonna keep things simple and say there are no HOA dues, and that you're gonna put 20% down so we don't have to pay mortgage insurance. Now, interest rates are constantly a moving target, but for the calculations that follow, let's use a 6.5% note rate on a 30-year loan. Now, in our first step, we calculated our total monthly payment. So let's finish up our step 2 math. $3,500 maximum PITI less $500 for property taxes and another $100 for homeowners insurance leaves us with $2,900 for the mortgage payment, or the P&I. So step 3 is to convert this number into a loan amount. Now to do this, you need an amortizing calculator. I usually use the trusty old friend on my desk back there, but click the link in the caption below and it'll take you to my favorite online amortizing calculator. And we're gonna ask the calculator to tell us the principal, which is the loan amount. So let's zero that out. And we want to leave 12 payments per year and 360 as the number of payments. That's a 30-year loan term. Balloon payment, if you bookmark this calculator and use it again, that should always be empty or a 0. And we're going to change the interest rate to 6.5% and enter $2,900 as our payment amount and hit calculate. And voila, we get a $459,000 loan amount. Now, our last step, step 4, is to figure out our purchase price. So in our example, you're putting 20% down, which means you're borrowing 80% of the price. Lenders call the percent of the value of the home you're borrowing the loan to value ratio, or LTV. To calculate your purchase price, we're gonna dust off our middle school algebra and divide the $459,000 loan amount by the 0.8 LTV, and we get a $574,000 price. And if you ever wondered what a career in lending looks like, you can stop wondering. This is exactly what I spend my weekends doing. My clients and their real estate brokers get out there on the hunt for the perfect property, and I'm on standby to poke at my calculator, share updated numbers, and write pre-approval letters. And that may sound a little dull, but I actually love what I do. As a kid, I loved story problems, and now I get paid to solve them and help my amazing clients buy their dream home. So if you're looking for a loan officer, my contact information is in the caption below, and I'd be thrilled to chat. So before moving on, I need to mention a couple of important things. First, Your debt to income ratio may not matter. If you've taken me up on my offer and you call to talk about your own home purchase, I'm going to ask you questions about your goals. And among other things, I'll want to know how much you'd like your monthly payment to be. And I ask this question of every single client, and the answer I often get is a number well below the maximum amount that loan guidelines would allow. And if the loan you want allows a debt-to-income ratio that puts you at a $3,500 payment every month, but you want to keep your payment under $3,000, then great. Your debt-to-income ratio doesn't matter, and we're probably not even going to talk about it. The only time it'll probably come up is if you're curious and you want to know the maximum amount you could qualify to borrow. Otherwise, we'll just focus our energy on keeping your monthly payment in line with your budget and your goals at that $3,000 or less threshold. Another important aside, when a lender writes a pre-approval letter, and this is a really important one, we almost always say, oh, you're approved up to a certain purchase price and a certain loan amount. But that's not really the case. If you think about all the math we just went through, you're actually approved for a maximum PITI. If you're shopping anywhere near the maximum amount you can qualify to borrow, it's tremendously important to understand what the maximum PITI is. Because let's say you get pre-approved and you hit the pavement with a pre-approval letter in your back pocket saying you're good to go at a $574,000 price, and you get out there shopping and you find a place you love and it's $550, and you're like, great, awesome, not so fast. Because what if it's a townhome and it has $300 a month of HOA dues? Let's redo our math above. So step one doesn't change. We're still aiming for a $3,500 PITI. Step two still starts at $3,500, but now in addition to taking away $500 for taxes and $100 for insurance, we need to deduct $300 for HOA dues. And that leaves us with $2,600 for principal and interest. Now let's go back to our amortization calculator for step three. Let's zero out the principal and change the payment amount to $2,600 and calculate. Our principal amount drops to $411,000. Take step four again, divide $411,000 by 0.8, and your maximum price with 20% down is reduced to $513,000. You're either going to need to make a bigger down payment or find another way to maneuver your DTI into line. And that's a perfect segue to the last video in the series. We've come a long way together, but every journey comes to an end, and ours will end talking about what can be done to fix a DTI that's too high. See you in the next video.